Knights and dragons, princesses and warlocks, fae and other fantasy creations, Renaissance fairs are the one time a year where nerds from all walks of life can coalesce and let their freak flags fly, support local craftsmen, eat tasty food, and even sword fight in a DIY octagon in the Guar Bar parking lot. Wait, aren't Renaissance fairs usually in the countryside? Not this one. I'm Kaitlin Owens. I'm a fashion journalist and a writer, but today I'm going to be attending Richmond's first ever Renaissance Fair, happening right here in the middle of Jackson Ward. Booths full of local craftsmen stretch from Guar Bar all the way down to Oddbird as a part of Gallery 5's First Friday series. The event saw over 5,000 people in attendance, with most of the walkways being filled with almost shoulder-to-shoulder crowds of well-dressed Richmonders looking to drink, dance, and be merry. So, what's a Ren Fair in the city really like? And how'd this all come together? Well, I put boots on the ground to go find out. But first, I met up with members of the local Weaving Guild for a quick demonstration.
Sure. I'm the president of the Richmond Weavers Guild. We decided we'd come here to demonstrate weaving since clearly everyone's wearing clothes. I brought this loom and we're setting it up so that people can try it. So right now we have the dark blue threads on top and the light blue threads on the bottom. So she's going to take this, it's the shuttle.
Okay.
And run it through there. And then she's gonna flip the levers.
Come on, how cool is that?
And you see the light blue is on top. She's gonna beat it in place. And that's how you make clothing.
That's gorgeous. Did you weave this?
Yeah.
That's crazy. How did you get involved in something like this?
So my family always camped when I was a kid, and we often went to Sturbridge Village, Williamsburg, all those places, and this was the thing that always attracted me.
Just sparked your interest.
Yeah. So when I was in college, I started learning to weave, and I've been weaving for a very long time.
Yeah, definitely got your 10,000 hours in.
Yes, definitely.
What about you? How'd you get involved?
I came here for fun, and I really like old crafts, which is the main reason I come to Renaissance fairs and things like that. I love to learn about making things. Mm-hmm. Obviously, woodworking and fabric are intimately connected. You need the kind of expertise to build a joint like this.
Oh,
it's so impressive to me as a woodworker. It's just super neat to watch how one craft can really support and uplift another. When you make one thing with this intentionality and this time taken, then it's an expression of care to whoever receives it, even if it's not a gift, even if it's something that somebody purchases from you. That's really showing love to somebody else through the investment of time, both build your skills and to make that specific object.
I've never been to a Renaissance fair, so the fact that they invited us to come and demonstrate the Richmond Weavers Guild is awesome, and I'm looking forward to 2026 when they have their Renaissance fair.
Yeah. Renaissance fairs are the perfect place to meet local craftsmen. We saw tons of people out selling their wares, pottery, chainmail clothing, swords that were blacksmithed on site, and we were even gifted a little wood flower that we turned into a microphone. Thanks, Maggie.
Richmond is chock full of insane talent everywhere you look. Weird stuff you would never even know about, like making a sword and fire breathing. I mean, there's just so much creativity in the city, and there always has been. Supporting local artists, local makers is absolutely a big part of it.
So that's more or less the story I'd like to tell with our Renaissance Fair. It's about the people, the common people, and the artisans that create. You know, painters made their own pigments by hand. If you were a weaver, you learned how to work with materials and understand how to prepare wool. It was not just about creation, but it was about the process of creation. And I think that post-COVID, so many of us are getting back to the traditions of creation and wanting to understand how it works, how it's made, working with our hands. And I feel like that is what the Renaissance era embodies. There seems to be an increased desire to work with your hands, to understand traditional ways to create mediums. So many people are desperate to step away from their computer screens, from their phones, from their televisions. I romanticize writing on real paper with real ink, making our own clothing, cooking with ingredients that we grew or we killed, that we gathered ourselves. This is what I mean when I say preserving traditions.
I was curious to find out exactly how you build a Renaissance fair from the ground up. So I connected with Amanda Robinson, who spearheaded the initiative, Amanda's a Richmond native and one of the founding members of Gallery 5.
Gallery 5 has been participating in Richmond's First Friday Art Walk for 20 years. We have grown in numbers so large that we can't even contain our programming inside of our own building. We welcomed Richmond Moon Market and allowed more artisans to set up along the streets. So when I thought of a place to launch this idea, I said, this has to be with the organization that I love, but the organization that really understands community, bringing people together and launching new ideas and initiatives. I felt that having this fundraising launch would get the type of community support needed to fundraise for the vision we are setting forth. This is not something that can be achieved overnight. It needs to be built organically from the grassroots level to get the type of community support, to build the enthusiasm, to grow the relationships, to grow the partnerships, to raise the funds.
Gallery 5 is an art community staple in Richmond. They're known for their live music, their burlesque performances, and their participation in RVA's First Friday event series. It was outside Gallery 5 and the surrounding city blocks that the Ren Fair took its first proverbial steps.
You know, Gallery 5 has been the hub for so many organizations in Richmond, has been the launching pad for countless artists, and I feel like an initiative like this can serve as the same, to be a platform for new collectives, for new ideas. My hope is that we're going to be creating relationships with organizations who wouldn't be traditionally found at a Renaissance Fair and crafting unique programming specifically for our Renaissance Fair. So it is very important for us to create these relationships because that is going to make up the majority of, you know, what you're going to see in Richmond.
Amanda, alongside Virago Alley, the historical combat sports collective that she runs with her husband Bijan, Ashmore, Ryan Laredo, Ben Madlinger, and the founder of the cult favorite Richmond Moon Market, Lauren Vincelli, were the team responsible for putting together the Ren Fair.
I met Amanda and Bijan years ago when they first started Gallery 5, when Amanda first started Gallery 5, and we've all been in the art scene in Richmond for years, and I think we all have a passion for supporting the arts and making space for the arts in Richmond. I really loved Bijan's poster, and I actually think that poster had a lot to do with the massive success of the event. We were sort of thinking of like, oh man, like, oh, this is really coming up fast. Do we need to do some kind of merch, a shirt or something like that? And I suggested that we do a map, you know, like a kind of treasure map kind of thing to lay out where everything at the festival is going to be. And seemingly instantaneously, Bijan came up with this adorable map of Jackson Ward. And as soon as we posted it, it went totally Richmond viral. I mean, just like watching it just go tick, 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 up and up was just like nuts. And that, I think, is when we all started thinking like, oh boy, this is gonna be a doozy. We got something good, cool on our hands here, and people are excited for it. That poster added so much to the hype of the event, but it also became this like keepsake of this historic Richmond weirdness that I just love that it turned out that way.
The team over at Virago Alley had about 4 months to plan and execute the fair. They relied on a workforce of primarily volunteers.
I am involved at Gallery 5 as well as Amanda, and we work really well together. We have done several projects together in the past. In that space, we're both a part of this group, so we were like, we should continue working on something. The Ren Fair was sort of this conglomerate thing that it was like everything fell into place at the right time. Just kind of tossing around the idea to see like, what would this look like in the landscape that is the city of Richmond. We were like, should we do it? It's 3 months away. Do we have time to pull this off? And we're like, screw it, let's just try. The Ren Fair being under Virago Alley's umbrella just made sense.
Virago Alley started as Amanda's herbalism practice, and then it sort of eventually morphed into this idea of having a physical space that could be utilized for both artisans and historical martial artists.
The missions are so aligned, and it's a lot of us working on these same things. We're like, let's just make it easier and kind of combine these efforts.
Within days, the RVA Ren Fair Instagram amassed over 9,000 followers. And the actual event saw over 5,000 people in attendance.
But once it was out there, it just sort of grew legs, and the community reception was incredible. It was, night and day from, no Ren Fair to, wow, suddenly there is a captive audience, people who are interested in collaborating and participating and attending and supporting. Having that kind of buy-in from the community, that energy from the community, I think really encouraged everybody involved to really keep pushing forward.
For the second and third months, it was just getting everybody on the same page, such as vendors organized by Moon Market. You had different kind of acts, who was replying to our emails, who wasn't, who did we need to get in touch with unique ways.
It's really exciting to think about all of the potential collaborations in the future and being able to continue to leverage the ones that we've already made to really focus in on making this an event that is representative of Richmond and all of the wonderful artisans and enthusiasts that want to be a part of something like this, that are already doing such amazing work here in our community.
We didn't want diversity for diversity's sake. Often that leaves the groups who are often used for diversity tokenized. But Richmond is incredibly diverse in its own unique ways, and I think showing off that Richmond diversity for the sake of Richmond, that's the most important thing we wanted for the Ren Fair. We're not going to have a royal court. We're not going to have this idea of medieval just being completely Eurocentric. Honestly, through the Silk Road alone, you had so many cultural influences that are often ignored in historical teachings. We've had many different groups in Richmond who wanted to become a part of this, but they had histories that didn't vibe with what Virago Alley was meant to stand for. We needed to make sure these were safe for everyone involved, and there are some groups that have a history of not making this fencing space, for example, safe and accessible for people who are queer, people who aren't white, people who are not necessarily people that you think of who would be into European history. This is a Ren Fair for everybody. And if your group already has a stance against that, where you make people uncomfortable, we're not going to have you.
The Renaissance Fair featured a dizzying array of historical combat demonstrations inside an octagon made from tents in the parking lot outside of Guar.
And welcome to the fight pit. Let's see some martial arts.
I guess after lockdown, I kind of cared less and less what people thought of me, and I've always wanted to be Robin Hood. Started with me having an interest in archery. Then I started getting really interested in Persian history and historical weaponry, and I got myself a short sword. Amanda made fun of me because I didn't know how to use this short sword, and so I linked up with the local HEMA groups because that was, Persian martial arts is not something widespread.
So I am a member of Richmond RVA MFFG. I'm still very much a new student. That is an area that there is a lack of resources, I think, at this time. There's not a lot of spaces for people to practice these kinds of things. So, a lot of it's happening in parks, and you're subject to weather.
To be able to see these guys fight with, full-on armor and steel and, lose their breath and, literally on the verge of blacking out because of the amount of endurance that they put into it, it kind of blew people's minds.
I thought it was kind of funny because it's the middle of the Guar Bar parking lot, but it was exciting to see such a large crowd and so many people being excited to watch that and to see my friends, who I admire, do so well out there. To see people get so excited to see, my friends perform, and I don't know, it's hard to say that I wasn't proud pride is the word there, but it was fun.
We did about 10 minutes. I'm drenched, so it's really fun. If you do it a couple of times a week, you just start feeling it.
I was into a couple of different forms of MMA, and this was just scratching an itch that other boxing wasn't scratching for me. And it's a lot of footwork, so I enjoy it a lot. Move around a lot. It's great exercise. I think there's definitely room for people who are more scholarly too. It's not just about combat sports to us. So our group, the Meyer Trifectors, a lot of us are spending as much time reading through source material as we are actually fighting each other.
It's a very physically demanding sport that's also involves reading hundreds of year old books. So it's a good blend of being a nerd and being active. I read Italian fencing books from the 1500s, so I think that makes me a nerd, right?
As far as myself, from my own vantage point, I feel like I was very nervous. As soon as I started fencing my friends, the crowd kind of disappeared, and it was just me and my friends hanging out like we always do.
People just associate sword play with LARPing, and nothing wrong with LARPing, but people don't understand the level of work and dedication and athleticism that goes into HEMA fencing, for example. So since the Ren Fair, we've already been able to launch a workshop that filled up so quickly, in fact, that we launched a second workshop. So many people have reached out to us since then, are very interested in getting involved with Virago Alley and learning more about classes and workshops. One day we'll have our physical location.
We hope to one day be this space for historic martial artistry to exist and for people to come and practice these crafts.
It will have an indoor archery range and an indoor space for local HEMA groups to spar and practice. And eventually we'd like to expand into studio spaces for the various craftsmen.
Now, as you can imagine, a massive event like this doesn't happen without a couple hiccups.
Oh, it's been a long day.
I bet.
It's been long, but definitely worthwhile.
Yeah.
A few volunteers couldn't make it for some reason, but you know what? We stuck together with whom we had, whoever came close to us, and they pulled through.
Yeah.
I feel like we pulled off one hell of an event. Really safe from what I heard. There was maybe like one or two things, but no major injuries. So I think that's great.
Due to the unexpected outpour of support, food vendors struggled to meet the crowd demands. Despite prepping for a very large crowd, they ran out of food within the first 2 hours.
We really did this on an absolute shoestring of a budget, and Richmond is an awesome city where you can get a lot done with a little bit, and that had never been more true than that night, I think. We really counted on the support of the community, and they definitely came through for us.
Now, despite these challenges, the fair was still a major success.
The community reception was insane. You know, obviously we couldn't have anticipated that it would be so amazing, but it all sort of just came together, and the support from the community, I think, really kept everybody going, and it was exciting to see everything build, and it was, I think, fun to have a space for us all to be kind of weird. And, you know, some people are more into the history of things, some people are more into sort of the fantasy side of things, and just like seeing those lines overlap and everybody coming together, it's really inspiring, and I think that Richmond needed that.
We're hoping that the success of this event will inspire people to partner with us, to support this endeavor, and, you know, make this happen for real.
Which begs the question, what's next for the Richmond Renaissance Fair?
We are scouting many venues. There are several venues that we've met with, that we've walked the grounds in Richmond. Unfortunately, many of those are too small for our efforts.
There's not going to be a perfect venue. We have to understand the strengths of each venue, the weaknesses of each venue. Keeping true to Richmond, though, is probably the most important thing for the venue selection.
Our launch saw over 5,000 people, so we can only assume that at least 5,000 people, if not more, will be attending our event next year. So we are looking for grounds large enough to accommodate at least 5,000 per day, if not several days of programming. And finding something large enough to accommodate that has been the challenge, so we're also seeking places slightly outside of Richmond. Once we find the location, there are a plethora of ideas that we've been forming. I know that many Ren fairs really highlight the history, which is important to us, but we know there's so many folks in the fantasy world that, you know, love this for the cosplay, they love this for the gaming, they love this for the reenactment. We wanted to create a realm dedicated to the D&D enthusiast, to the fantasy enthusiast, so that people can sort of walk into that experience. We want to create a life-size D&D game with real people and partner with various organizations. We want to reach out to Richmond's Comedy Coalition, so we have improv comics, as well as potentially ask WAR for costuming so that we can create this life-size role-playing game that goes throughout the course of the days.
I would love a weekend night, obviously like close off so we can get every family out there, just leave for obvious reasons, but like an adults-only Ren Fair night where people can like have storyteller stages to smut fantasy. People come up in like sexy costumes of that kind of same fair, like tons of drinking, some great bands at night, not safe for work 18 plus vendors. It's like they have a space, and why not open that up to them and take advantage of a very popular genre?
Watch live combat from guilds across Richmond, but also to be able to buy chain mail and buy armor. We want to have an area dedicated to fairies and storytelling and myths and legends. And we want to have an area that's dedicated to all of the historic tradesmen and demonstrations, really highlighting the traditions of those historic art forms. So there is a lot of ideas planned for next year, you know, and there was a lot of red tape that we had to go through specifically to close the streets around the gallery. You know, Gallery 5's outdoor festivities grow by the day, and we are already, you know, stretching the limits of what we're able to do in those 3 blocks of surrounding Gallery 5. And I knew that the launch of the Ren Fair was going to surpass that. So we were sort of stepping on thin ice, preparing this event.
Latest Ren Fair, we have shown that there is an interest of thousands of people from in and around the state and even outside the state who want a Ren Fair in Richmond. And Richmond deserves a really unique event such as the Ren Fair. So keeping that involved, we already have like this evidence of, hey, we've had thousands of people, we had vendors running out of things to sell by around 7:30, 8 o'clock. Food vendors are running out of food around the same time. It's a success for us, but maybe it's just a lack of planning on their part, but it is a success for us for that to happen. And honestly, even in my own history of living in Richmond, I've only been here for maybe 10, 13 years. I've never seen a First Friday that active.
Yes, so several city council members and representatives came to this event, and they saw the magic that was created. They saw the happy faces and the camaraderie and the enjoyment. They saw that the environment was made up of people that truly support Richmond. They care about their surroundings. They care about the neighbors and the businesses. So, you know, it really, truly went off without a hitch. It was the most magical night I've ever experienced in my history at Gallery 5.